Well, we return to the London Stadium for the first time this season. Well, the first time because it's a new season, and of course the first time since we won the Europa Conference League trophy. London Derby versus Chelsea. Big game, Riley. I mean, I know it's only game 2 of the season, but considering the matches that are coming up, got a decent point against Bournemouth. It's a London derby. It's at home. We've got a couple of new faces you imagine going to be featuring. I think it's time for... I've got a feeling it's going to be a bit of a buzz around the stadium, to be honest. It's a big game, and it'd be nice, wouldn't it, to start at home with 3 points, especially against a big side like Chelsea. But before we go into the match and talking about West Ham and all the excitement surrounding our club, that's nothing but positive news always. Let's talk about Chelsea. Chelsea Football Club, very, very poor season for them last season, Riley. Very uncharacteristically bad for them. I mean, they've got the new owner coming in. It seems a bit of a nightmare. Obviously got the new manager in, Pochettino, this summer. You think it might stabilise things. But it appears, I was actually thinking they would probably settle down with their spending and maybe just try and keep things a bit calm. But it appears absolutely no way. They've done the polar opposite and buying players left, right and centre. I don't quite, we'll come to it a bit more in a minute. First of all, mate, what are your thoughts on Chelsea?
Like you say, mate, I think that they are falling into a dangerous trap of buying too many players, having too much. I mean, their squad is constantly changing. And don't get me wrong, new signings are needed. And obviously they have improved the quality of their signings. But I think this season it's going to be so up in the air for them because they've got a new manager. They've basically got like almost a new 11 to what they could have had last season. And when you think about where they started last summer, if you count the January transfer window as well, they've basically got a whole new front line, a whole new midfield, a whole new back line. I mean, it's crazy. It's such a transitional period. And I think chucking that many things in there is quite difficult. But as much as people have criticised Pochettino for what he did at PSG, I think you have to look at what he achieved at Tottenham. You have to look at his mentality. Why is he not taking a job in all this time? He wants a challenge. He wants something that's going to be a good project for him. And I think Chelsea probably is that project. He's brought in good players. Obviously, the injury to Reece James is concerning for them because that's sort of 2 seasons in a row where at the start, their star right back has got an injury of that sort of persuasion. But I'm sure they'll be able to find some pocket money somewhere to buy a replacement.
Yeah.
And I've been really, really impressed with the caliber of players they're bringing in. Like, don't get me wrong, I do think sometimes that, less is more. But, we saw that at Forest last year. But the caliber of players they're bringing in is absolutely incredible. Like, there's not really a sign in there that you think to yourself, they're all right. Like, every single signing they've made this summer, for me, has been a brilliant signing. So, I mean, they're looking like a very dangerous team. I mean, I lift off some of the signings now. Obviously, you got Caicedo coming from Brighton. Crazy fee, but he's some midfielder next to Enzo Fernandez, who was signed last season. Romeo Lavia, who's just signed from Southampton. Alex Diarcy, I think that was Monaco. Robert Sanchez, Nicholas Jackson up top against Villarreal. Obviously, they also bought in Kunku last year from RB Leipzig. I mean, they've brought in some really, really top talent, mate. And to be fair, they've actually done pretty well with sales as well because of all the players they've sold to Saudi League. Mason Mount for like 60 odd million. I think they've actually had a really, really good transfer window. My worry now is, can you take all those brilliant players and put them into a team?
Well, they've got the manager, haven't they, now to do that, you'd think. I mean, that's probably the one thing that gives them a little bit more confidence. So if I was a Chelsea fan, although I probably wouldn't like all this constant change and players in, players out, although don't get me wrong, it's exciting as a football fan, but it's also a little bit... I think we've seen quite a few pieces of evidence to suggest that just buying players doesn't just mean you're going to do well. I mean, Chelsea were the prime example of that last season. Spent, was it 600 million, I think, in January in total, something like that. And, I didn't even get a top half finish. So, really, it doesn't scream that that you're going to necessarily be successful. But the fact they've got Pochettino in gives you a little bit of comfort that they probably will be all right. It's a strange one. I mean, the way the football club's being run is very odd. I mean, the way they're trying to avoid it, isn't it? Avoid these financial fair play. They're trying to be smart and say, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll put them on very long contracts so we can spread these costs over the years. The problem with that is I just think that's just such a huge gamble because we've done it ourselves. If you remember, we did it with Winston Reid. I think we put Reid on a 6-year contract. I think it might have been 7. We put him on something like that, like a ridiculously long contract. And he was really injury prone at that time. And I remember thinking, but we did it because if I remember right, I think Tottenham were in for him. And we were desperately trying to keep him. So we like naively went, let's just give him the longest contract we possibly can. You can stay for the rest of your career, Winston. And it was a disaster because he got injured. And then we just had this injury-prone player earning 80 grand a week, and we could never, ever get rid of him until we saw his contract out. So we just, and why would he? Why would he want to leave that contract? It's brilliant. So Chelsea are taking a huge gamble here because if any of these players don't work out, let's be honest, even if you buy 6 players in the summer, the likelihood of all 6 being absolutely brilliant for you and all being successful is pretty unlikely. It's probably 1 or 2 that you might go, yeah, it didn't quite work out, we're going to move them on or whatever. So I do feel like that that Todd Bowley's playing a fair bit of roulette here with Chelsea, but it's up to them. I mean, it's the way they want to run the football club. I don't quite agree with it, but it is the way they want to do it. Like you say, though, the signings are smart. They're not buying rubbish, and they don't seem to be also. Whereas before it just seemed they were just buying names. They're buying actually very good players, Premier League players that will do well. You think, yeah, I think they're going to be decent enough this season. With the manager in place, I do think they will be much, much better than last season. I think they're going to have to at least be in the top. Well, they've got to be in the top 6. They've got to be in the European spaces this season, absolutely. And I'm sure, and I'm pretty confident they will be. But it is it's a strange one. It's very hard to predict, isn't it, at the moment? Because it's so early in the season, we're probably playing them at a pretty decent time. I did watch them against Liverpool. I thought they were all right. I thought they looked better. It's almost like Pochettino's gone back to basics with Chelsea now, just gone, right, let's just play some basic standard football, get you just used to playing with each other, rather than trying to do anything too exotic and crazy and a bit maverick. He just seems to be playing quite straightforward football, which I think Chelsea need. But it's going to be an interesting season for them, mate. What before we go on to West Ham, what are your predictions for Chelsea? Do you think they're going to be challenging for titles? Do you think they're going to be struggling to be in top 10 again? Where do you think they're going to be? Whereabouts they're going to be?
Well, obviously they've got no European football, which is a plus for them. But I don't know. I mean, I could see them getting a top 6 spot over the likes of. I mean, I don't want to discount clubs like Brighton, but I think my top 5 is pretty much nailed on at the moment, which would be Newcastle, Liverpool, Arsenal, City, United, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Newcastle. Yeah, right. Those are the 5 teams that I think will be finishing in the top 5 this season. Which order that's going to be, and I have no idea. So then I look at the 6th place, and I think probably Chelsea have a good shout of getting that over Brighton. I think they've spent a lot of money. They've taken key players. Brighton obviously have European football as well. Will they drop off? Will clubs start, figuring a way how to play against Brighton? I
hope we can.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're playing them in game week 3, and we're still yet to beat them in the Premier League. We're still yet to beat them in the Premier League. It's the weirdest record I've ever seen as a West Ham fan. But yeah, we are still yet to beat them. So hopefully someone can come up with a template and we'll be able to copy and paste it. But for me, I think that Chelsea do make sense to fit into that 6th spot. Spurs losing Kane, I don't know if they'll replace him. I think that's too big a loss for them to be able to compete with the likes of Chelsea. And like I said, Brighton having Europa League football may sort of hinder their Premier League campaign. Brentford missing out on Tony for 6 months, I think, is too big a mountain to climb up if they haven't replaced him, which they don't like to have. So I think Chelsea are pretty nailed on to get at least top 6, but I don't really see them, unless like Liverpool just don't show up to the races. I really don't see them being a break into a top 4. Newcastle look really good again this year. I think United will come into their own as well. Arsenal and City look like they're going to be the sort of top 2. So I think they'd really struggle to get top 4.
Yeah, it's going to be very tall order for them. I think that'll be their ambition this season to get the Champions League. I think that should certainly be their ambition with the money they've spent, and but you do wonder really what the pressure is going to be for Pochettino at that club, because we always hear this with these owners and we're going to give this manager all this time, we're investing in this project and but they said exactly the same about Graham Potter. Exactly that they were going to totally give him the time. They know he needs time to bed in the football club, get his ideas across, and they were going to stand by him. Well, they didn't, did they? They once the results didn't start happening, they got rid of him. You'd like to think Pochettino would be given a little bit more because of who he is and the fact that he's a proven top manager. But you just don't know with these owners. I mean, I think he's going to be under pressure. I think he's going to need to. All I'm thinking is, is the promise that he's going to be top 4? If it is, I think he's going to struggle. But I think Chelsea as a club would probably accept top 6, top 7, probably just get some European football back, but then with the idea of the following season, right, we've got to be challenging. And when I say challenging, like they need to be challenging City for the title. But yeah, you can't imagine they'll be there yet or anywhere. I'd be very surprised anyway. If they go up and start challenging that end of the table, I'll be very surprised. But who knows? It's a funny old club. And it's one West Ham possibly come at a good time for West Ham to play them, really. You know, they're still finding their feet. They've got, as you said, they've got an injury to Reece James. Probably not a bad time to be playing them and bringing them to our gaff, especially with, I think the atmosphere will be pretty good on Sunday. On to West Ham then, mate. Obviously, first game of the season, ended on a draw. It wasn't a bad one. I don't think it was a bad result, really, for West Ham. It was, I think most people would have taken that before the game. It's just a bit frustrating, the fact we were 1-up and possibly could have gone on to win it. Added to our 1-0 scoreline, but we didn't. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to moan about it, really. A point away from home in the Premier League is never something to be too disappointed with. But pressure's on David Moyes this season. We can't, we don't want to be a channel that slates David Moyes and be on his case all the time. But we're just talking facts here. We had a poor season last season, forgetting parking the Europa Conference League. That was fantastic, but the Premier League was poor. So he's under pressure this season. No two ways about it. Do you think? Is it right in me thinking this? If West Ham lose to Chelsea, let's be honest, there's no shame in that. But the pressure will start ramping on Moyes pretty quickly. That the people who are going, right, hang on, we've got 1 point out of 2 games here. This isn't good. I actually think it would do, personally, myself, Riley. What's your thoughts?
I can't imagine that being the case, to be honest. I think we haven't even... West Ham is historically a club that gets all of its transfer business done in the last kind of 2 weeks. I mean, we said this, didn't we, way early in the window, that we weren't actually that worried because for some reason we just leave our business so late. Because obviously it takes us so long to figure out who represents the best value for money, which is what we're all about, So he hasn't, bearing in mind after this Chelsea game, in a few weeks' time, we might have a completely different squad, different signings coming in. Then they get a bedding in period. I don't think anyone's really going to be questioning David Moyes until I'd say about 8 games in. I'd be very surprised if 2 games in you've drawn against Bournemouth, which, to be fair, like we probably could have won the game, but we didn't lose it. And you've lost to Chelsea, who've spent almost £1 billion. I mean, I don't see the pressure ramping on David Moyes too soon. Obviously, if we start heading towards the down end of the table and we start losing to clubs like Luton, or we don't start picking up big points, 100%. I mean, if we end this transfer window without signing a couple more players, I think, again, the pressure will be on David Moyes. But I think he's probably got a good 8 games to sort of show something. Show that he's changed a little bit, show that we're not just rinsing and repeating what happened last season and we're just going on the same track and we need a new manager in. And hopefully that will come in the shape of maybe a new formation, or obviously having the new players come in. Hopefully they'll just execute his tactics better. But I reckon probably around 8 games in is when it's going to come in, especially with the fact that he's got the crutch, that we've got a very tough start to the season with Chelsea, Liverpool and City. And obviously Brighton as well, who will, like we say, is probably the worst out of the lot. I'd actually rather play City than Brighton at this point. I don't think the pressure will start ramping on him too soon. I think he's got quite a few games at least to prove himself.
Well, you raise a good point there, but the thing is, then when you think about the games we've got coming up, you then really, it makes Chelsea even more important. It's a home game against a team that are very new, still finding their feet, still building, still bringing players in. It's probably this is a really prime time for Moyes to get a decent result under his belt. I think, not trying to take away from Chelsea, because I think they are going to be stronger this season. But West Ham, for my opinion, this is a good opportunity. I really don't want us to squander it. Got to play well. We're going to need to play well. I mean, Chelsea is still going to be up for it. There's no choice about it. But you can't. I mean, when I watched them against Liverpool, although they look better organised, I wasn't wowed by them. I didn't look at them and think, "Oh my God, were they going to eat us alive?" I thought they just looked all right. They played okay, and I do think if West Ham can put in a decent performance, we could get something. Before we go into our teams, matey, we need to talk about one player, Lucas Paqueta. We did a video earlier regarding the situation, surrounding this FA investigation regarding betting offences. We talked about that in that video. We both said, well, I can't imagine the club not playing the player. Are we still sticking with that theory? Do you think that Paqueta will be, if available, being involved against Chelsea?
If he's available, David Moyes will play him, and there's no doubt in my mind about that.
I agree. I absolutely solely agree. I actually can imagine Moyes already in his press conference after the game when they say, "Oh, you played Paqueta then? What did you do?" And he'll go, "Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I play him? There's an investigation going on, nothing to do." Do you know what I mean? He's just going to dismiss it and go, nothing. Like he did with Zuma, like you said previously. I just think he won't take... I agree. If there's no pressure from the club to drop him, I don't think there'll be an issue. And let's be honest, I think the club will be behind Moyes. I think the likes of David Sullivan, Steidton, Noble, David Moyes will all have the same mindset. I can't imagine any of them going, "Oh no, we can't play him." They'll know that actually there's nothing been proven in this situation at the moment. And the fact is, we're playing Chelsea. We need a good season this season. We ain't got time for all this crap. Like, we've got to go and get some results. We need our best players out regardless. So I don't think there'll be. And like you say, if they played Zuma when he did something that was quite. Not just it was kind of national news, not just football news. It was treated as a and the fact it was a kicking a cat and whatever. It was kind of like it sort of touched the hearts of lots of different types of people that you probably wouldn't associate with football, like animal rights and stuff like that. So, and we still carried on and went, yeah, he's playing. So the fact it's just a betting offence, it's he hasn't really hurt anyone. Let's be honest. So I don't think he might be innocent anyway, but I can't see them dropping him. I'll tell you what, mate. We do our preview. We put our teams what we both want to see. I found this really hard this week. I found this really difficult. Like usually, most of the team writes itself. I don't get on most of it has, but I found the midfield particularly quite difficult. I'm going to ask you first, though, Riley. What is your? I'll tell you what. Let's just do. We'll do it in straight. So who you having in goal?
I'll probably stick with Areola in goal.
Yeah.
I think especially the way Fabianski came out and sort of said he wasn't happy being second choice. I think if we were to put Fabianski in goal, it would kind of send the wrong message to both players at the club and Areola himself, because it would make it seem like he's thrown his toys out the pram and we've allowed him the first spot, even if that's not the case. So I think Areola has to play in goal for me.
Yeah. I agree with that. I've gone with Areola. I think now, like, I'm a bit disappointed in Fabianski, actually, for his comments. To be honest, I've been dropped. I thought it was a bit petty, bit silly of him, really, for someone of his age. And I don't know. When he said he was so shocked by the news, it was like, really? Like, I thought it would happen last season, to be honest. I don't know why you're that shocked. And at the end of the day, we've got European football again. So effectively, you're still going to be playing in Europe and still playing cup games. So I found that a bit odd. But it's up to, at the same time, maybe it's a good thing having a bit of passion and wanting to play. But for me, Areola in goal. I think if that's their goalkeeper now, let's stick with it. Defense then. What are you going to go for a back line? Are you going for a back five or are you going for a back four?
No, I think we stick with the back four. I know Creswell's back training with the squad, but I'd probably start Emerson.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to starting someone like Kira on the right instead of Soufal.
Oh, really?
But I think, I mean, I do. I just like the way he goes forward. I like the way he plays. But I'll probably stick with Soufal because trusted, and obviously you got the lightning partnership of Zuma and again.
So are you going with Soufal then? Are you right back?
I'll probably stick with Soufal just because he plays there more often. He's probably less prone to a mistake as well, but I actually do think Kira with a bit of fine tuning could actually be our starting right back.
I agree with you on that. I do agree with you on that. I've gone for a back four as well. I've gone for the same as you, Emerson and Soufal. Absolutely exactly the same. I actually agree with you totally with Kira. I was a little bit torn with this one. The only reason I've gone with Soufal is just because of the experience, and you just think tough game, first home game of the season, maybe you just want a little bit of bite in there, someone that's been there, done it. And I just don't want to take too many risks against Chelsea. I think we're going to need to be quite very defensively minded. Well, West Ham are anyway, let's be honest, that's how we play. But back two, I mean, the centre-backs, I'm guessing that kind of is a straightforward one.
Yeah, for, again, Zuma, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've gone exactly the same, actually, for our defence. Now, this is where the debate will be, I'm sure. I've sort of been juggling for my mind, thinking how I'd play this. Now, because we're playing against Chelsea, I think they're going to have a lot more of the ball, I'm guessing, than us. And we're going to be playing on the counter-attack. Definitely. We play that really anyway, most games, but certainly I'm sure that's how we'll set up against Chelsea. With that in mind, I've actually dropped Alvarez as a defensive midfielder to sit in front of the defence. So effectively, he'll be operating a bit like joining them, really, as a barrier between the midfield and the defence. And then I'd have Paqueta and James Ward-Prowse playing in front of him as the two midfielders. What's your thoughts on that? Would you have something similar, or you got something different in mind?
No, Alvarez, Paqueta, James Ward-Prowse. I think this is a really
look at
important...
this. This has been easy, isn't it?
I mean, great minds, but I think it's a really important game to have someone like James Ward-Prowse. I mean, we're going to struggle to get behind Chelsea. I mean, like I say, they're going to play possession football. They're going to play quick. They're going to be moving the ball around quickly, and obviously they're going to drop off when we come. They're not going to play the whole counter attack. They don't play up particularly high line. They didn't really suffer too much against Liverpool. So we know that's how they're going to play. In a game where chances are going to be, few to come by, having the tactic of let's win a free kick, get James Ward-Prowse on it, and maybe we'll score a bloody goal. That's invaluable in a game like this. The game where we might not have too much of the ball, a game where we might not be able to, get in behind the way we want to. Having an opportunity, especially with someone like Antonio up front, who I'm sure is probably who we're going to be choosing here. Having him up top and winning fouls, he's very good tactically with that. Having James Ward-Prowse on set pieces is so invaluable to the team that we just can't not play him in this game. I think it would just be so stupid not to play him when we know that the only real sort of opportunities we might get is through set pieces, and it's going to allow us so many more opportunities. I think Alvarez as well has to come in, simply because he's just, why do we buy him otherwise? And like you say, the situation with Paqueta is nonetheless, he's a brilliant player and he needs to play. I think this is the type of game where Chelsea are basically sitting there and paying all their new signings, their £1 billion Lamborghini they've built in their squad. I feel like, we need to give the club a lift as well. We need to show off some of our new signings. It would be a bit sort of underwhelming if you see this Chelsea squad going out there with like all these new players.
Yeah.
Then David Moyes puts out the same 11 he's been playing since last season. I think you need that, lift at the London Stadium to get Alvarez and James Ward-Prowse coming out, get the fans going, get them excited to watch these new players play for West Ham. I think that's a must for this game, regardless of what David Moyes says about bedding in and all that, stuff. I think he just absolutely has to play him.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree with our lineups. I think we're doing okay at the moment, and I do agree with your mindset as well. I think we do need the fresh blood out there. Well, before we go into the predictions end of the match, what we're thinking then for the front line, I've gone for Benrahma, Bowen, and Antonio through the middle. Not very creative, but that's what I've gone for. What's your thoughts? Have you changed anything on that?
Do you think Bowen might potentially play at striker this game with, David Moyes talking about it so much? I mean, I think it would be a bit naive to start him against Chelsea in terms of up front. But do you think that's something he might do?
No, I don't. The reason I don't think he will is because I think because of the nature of this game we're going into, I think that we're going to play quite ugly in this game. I think we're going to bully. I think we're going to be defensive. I think, like you said, we're going to be trying to play counter-attack and off the set piece. That's going to be our whole game plan. Frustrate Chelsea as much as we can. And I think to do that, you need Antonio up front, bullying them, getting the fouls in, just running the channels, running them ragged. I don't think it would suit experimenting with Bowen up front on his own for this one. I just don't see it. I just don't think this is the right game. But I do. I mean, so you agree with that? What you're thinking? You thinking Bowen, Antonio, Benrahma then for this one up front?
Yeah, definitely. I like you say, I don't think this is a game that Bowen would suit. And I think we need to slow the game down at times, and winning fouls will allow us to do that. And of course, like I said, you got James Ward-Prowse on the pitch. You've always got a chance to score. I mean, we're going back to the Payet era, mate, where you get. It used to be corners. It used to be free kicks. Sorry, with Payet. Then it was corners when Craig Dawson was at the club, and now it's free kicks again. It's a beautiful time.
It is. It's actually very exciting. Actually, I know it sounds a bit cliche, but it's true. Like that, the message has to be to Antonio, Bowen, and Benrahma. Try to get in, cut inside, and draw fouls as much as you can. Like we want, not just because of he can have a fire at goal, which is obviously be exciting in itself, but also with his deliveries. For set pieces, we want to try and get as many fouls as we can. So, and that's going to be our tactic. I think West Ham. I was talking to Gonzo Harris chat a while ago about it, and he was saying, and he's right. I think West Ham are just going to be an ugly side on David Moyes' season. We are just going to be so reliant on our set pieces, so reliant on free kicks, counter-attack football. That is just going to be a way we set up. I've got no real problem with it as long as it works. I don't mind seeing ugly side of football as long as it delivers. The problem was last season we were doing it and it wasn't delivering. That's where the frustration is. But I get the feeling this is going to be a proper Moyes game. This where he's just going to set up, frustrate them, bully them, kick them, do everything we can. And you know what, mate? I've got a feeling it's going to work. I've got this really good feeling about tomorrow. I might be completely naive.
Being positive. I mean, that's craziness. I just can't believe it. You always come into these predictions. Honestly, you rarely predict West Ham to lose. To be fair, I think you're always quite positive, and then you got the yin and yang of me being all the negative sort of side and being a bit more.
Well, I got the result right last week. That was 1-1, and for this week, I've gone 1-0 West Ham. I think we're going to win this. I've just got this feeling in my mind we're going to frustrate the hell out of Chelsea. We're going to defend well. I think they're going to find it frustrating trying to break us down, and I just get the feeling we're going to nick a goal somewhere, whether it be a Ward-Prowse goal or a toe poke from Antonio or a wonder strike from Bowen, whatever it'll be. We're going to nick a goal somewhere, and we're going to win the game. That's just my gut feeling. Who knows? We could get absolutely hammered tomorrow. I have no idea. But my gut feeling is, I don't know, something's playing into my mind thinking this is a kind of Moyes perfect game. This, like, new manager at Chelsea, he wants to play some sexy football with his new Lamborghinis, like you say, and West Ham are going to go, no, fuck all that. Just kick them up in the air. Let's just bully them, just make their day hard. And I just get that
we've got
feeling.
reliable Ford Fiestas, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Just get the old bangers out and we'll just fucking go, yeah, come on, we're up for a ruck here. And I've got this feeling we're going to be right up for it tomorrow. And I don't know. I just think it could play into our hands, all this. Maybe that would be exactly how we want to play. But yeah, that's what I'm going for. I might be very, a bit claret and blue tinted glasses on here, but I'm going 1-0 West Ham. What is your final prediction, Mr. Riley Finch?
Yeah, I'm going to bring you back crashing down to earth, mate, because I personally think we're going to lose 3-1. And I know that's quite a big scoreline, but I think David Moyes will be too negative potentially. Like he'll try and set up to frustrate Chelsea, and I just don't think it'll work. There's literally no way we're going to get a foothold in midfield with Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, even potentially if they go with Lavia in there. I mean, there's absolutely no way we're getting any sort of foothold in midfield. And obviously that is something that we used to hold as one of our biggest assets when we used to have like Rice and Paqueta. We don't know how Alvarez is going to play. Is he going to struggle to adapt? I actually don't think Moyes is going to play Ward-Prowse. I think he's going to play Souček. That is my gut feeling. Whether I'm right or wrong, hopefully I'm just being too naive or too much PTSD when it comes to Moyes. I mean, surely it makes no sense to play Souček, but again, it may be the case. Or even he might even play him at CDM with the mindset of Ward-Prowse free kicks, get him on the end of them. But either way, I think Chelsea have got too much bounce about them. And you talk about David Moyes needing a result. How much pressure's on Pochettino's shoulders, mate?
Yeah. They want to start well.
Money, he's going to be looking at this game thinking it's bloody West Ham. If I don't get a result here, already the press are going to be like, oh, Pochettino's this. All the pressure's going to come on the new players. Like, it does work both ways. So I think they're going to be just as up for it as we are. And traditionally, we don't have a great record against Chelsea, I don't think. But I mean, hopefully I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong. I could see us nicking a draw, but I can kind of see us getting a little bit carried away and a bit of a wake-up call tomorrow, to be honest with you.
You could well be right, mate. You could well be right. You're bringing me back down to earth, but look, I'm going to still go with my gut instinct. I still think,
as you should,
got this feeling. And also, I can't believe I didn't predict it. If there's going to be a goal scorer for West Ham, surely it's Lucas Paqueta.
And if there's going to be a yellow card in the game, maybe it's Lucas Paqueta as well.
Absolutely. Nice one.